We'll talk about finding a publisher for your book and submitting a proposal. First, why revise your thesis? Publishers will ask you, if you are submitting a project that is based on a dissertation, how you are planning to revise it. And really this is for two reasons. The first is that where your dissertation is primarily an exercise within your discipline that is conferring on you, really, and it is your bar exam. This is where you are demonstrating to your committee your fitness as a scholar, your grasp of the field, your ability to make an original contribution to your field. So this is an exercise, the dissertation. The book is different. The book is communicating an idea or ideas effectively to an audience. And so its structure may be different, its tone is often different, its contents may be different. So that's the first reason we ask you to revise. The second is that the audience is different. Your thesis is written for a committee of 5 people, 5 or 6 people, a few of whom are the leading specialists in your area. The book will be written for a wider audience, still scholarly, but one that includes non-specialists, that includes scholars from other disciplines, and students, both graduate and undergraduate. So again, the tone, the contents, the structure, what you take or don't take for granted changes in the book. So those are why you revise your thesis. How do you revise your thesis? I won't get into kind of all the specifics of this. A few key tips. One is, if you have access to your external examiner's report, which most people do, read it. Because often this will contain explicit advice from the examiner about how you should revise your thesis for publication. Often this is what they're thinking as they're reading it. So let's pay attention to that, because that examiner's report will often not be, or it's the same length, the same kind of type as a peer review report, as an external review of that publishers will get on your manuscript. So read the report, and we tell people, for the most part, follow that advice. Second, read a book or two. One on revising your thesis. One we recommend is William Germano's From Dissertation to Book, published in 2005 by the University of Chicago Press. There are other ones out there, other presses may recommend other books. It's not intended for any one discipline, it's really for social sciences and humanities. Not all of it will apply to everyone, but it's good common sense advice. Last point, some people ask, should I dive right into my revisions? Should I give it a bit of time after the defense? Very individual. Some people just can't wait to keep going. Can't understand that or imagine it exactly. Most people are pretty exhausted and fed up with it by the time the dissertation comes around. A lot of people do like some distance, and overall we think that's good, whether it's 3 months or 6 months, even a year. It just gives you your own critical distance from your work that can make you see where the work needs to be done as you start envisioning it as a book. Approaching a publisher. How do you find a publisher? How do you approach the publisher, and when? First, do some research, beginning with your bookshelf and the bibliographies and the books that you use. Do you see publishers that recur? Are Oxford, University of Nebraska you see a few times. This tells you something about the field you're working in, that there is a publisher likely, often there's more than one, but maybe 1 or 2 that really specialize in your area. They're natural ones for you to consider because they're going to be interested in what you do. This is an area of strength for them. Publishers like to develop their strengths. Their readers come to them because they see them as the publisher for these books. So there's a loop that develops, and to be part of that, it makes sense. It makes it easier for you in approaching the publisher to explain why your book will fit their list. Research publishers online. It's so easy now. Many of them have really good websites that talk about what they do. Their catalogs are easily searchable. Again, it's about making the connection between your work, yourself, and the press. So find ways to do that so that when you do submit the proposal, it is tailored to the mandate and mission and strengths of that press. Fourth, ask around. This is your dissertation, talk to your supervisor, maybe members of your committee. If you're a bit further on, talk to colleagues. Who do your colleagues or disciplinary colleagues publish with? Who do they recommend? What editors have they worked with? What publishers have they worked with? Kind of common sense, but you can pick up information about presses and editors that would be good for you to work with. What should you send a publisher is next. Visit their websites and see what they require. Most publishers will ask for a proposal in advance of the submission of a full manuscript. If you're planning to submit a proposal to more than one publisher at once, which is not something publishers like, but they recognize that authors do and sometimes need to do, it's best to say so. Say in your covering letter that this is, first, it's best not to prepare a generic proposal. Prepare it for the press to which you are applying or submitting your proposal, but indicate in it that this is under review with other presses. When it comes time to submit your full manuscript, you really have to go alone. Go it alone with one publisher, and that's something that's observed by all Canadian university presses. And that's my understanding, most American university presses as well, that because time and material resources are being put into the review of manuscripts, publishers really can't, unfortunately, afford to compete against each other. So when it comes time to decide who's going to review your full manuscript, be sure it's, you may be asked, in fact, to indicate in writing that this is only under consideration of one publisher. And last, what are the elements of a strong proposal? A proposal will, over the course of a few pages, sometimes maybe 3 to 5 or 6 pages, will explain what this book is about. It will, in McGill-Queen's anyway, our jargon, outline its aim, scope, contents, and methodology. So what is your objective with this book? What does it cover? What is its scope? What is it about? We'll get into the contents in a second. And how do you do what you do? Your methodology. What sources do you draw on? What theoretical context are you working within? Provide a table of contents and a chapter plan if you can. Even if it's still in draft form, what do you envision each chapter being and being about? Also, what do you anticipate the market and readership will be? Sometimes people say, well, I expect it will have wide popular appeal. It would be great, wouldn't it, if there was. Usually, be a little bit more realistic. It's nice sometimes books surprise us in the way they cross over and strike a chord, particularly if they're just timely in some way. But probably if this is a book that originated in a dissertation or a research grant, it's a scholarly book, and what the publisher is wondering is what disciplines are going to be interested in this work, if there's course adoption potential, what programs or courses, even specifically if you would like to provide that, what courses would be interested in this book as a core text or more likely a supplementary reading in the course. A sample from the manuscript, ideally the introduction, even if it's in draft, gives a publisher a really good sense of how you write, of how your book is about, of how you're setting up the manuscript for the reader.